Brother, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Getting along okay in COVID. How about you?
We messed. Yeah, I'm getting along okay. As a matter of fact, I prefer some things about it. It's weird, and I know that's not going to be popular to say, but I want to introduce the viewer to my brother. This is Aaron Anderson. A couple nights ago on Facebook Live, I was talking about my brother, who I think is a really good thinker, who's somebody that I really do look to for help and information. And when you just want to chew through the issues of the world, this is one of the people I call, one of the people I lean on a lot. And I thought I would share some of his thoughts with you. So if you'll indulge me, I thought I would. Here's what we were talking about the other night, brother. We were talking about on live self-sabotage. And I told that one story that I told you the other day about the lady that I made the bet with, right? I won't cover that one again because that one's silly. But I've noticed over the years that a lot of people really, really struggle getting in shape. And I'm convinced at some point that some people, not all, that are going to be unsuccessful planned it that way. They planned it that way. And I know that doesn't make any sense. Why would you A, pay a trainer, B, go through all the pain and hell just to be able to come back and tell everybody, see, I told you so. But let me tell you the story. This is the first time it ever occurred to me that maybe somebody self-sabotaged. And you're a licensed marriage and family therapist, not LMT, LMFT.
That's right. Yep.
And you've got your own place there in Colorado. And you know more about this than I do. And I'd love to pick your brain about it. So here's what happened. I was training this lady, and I used to sit down with folk before we would train. And I was asking her, how can I help you? What types of things are issues that you're dealing with? Which I learned wasn't a great idea. In fact, all this did is led me into conversations that I probably needed a little more qualifications for. Namely, I needed to be a licensed marriage and family therapist to answer, right?
Right, right.
I was way over my pay grade. I really was. People were like sharing stuff with me about their husbands and that were none of my damn business. And I would tell them too, I'm like, look, I'll take a poke at this, but I got no business here. So the lady starts talking to me and she's telling me, I told my husband it isn't going to work. I said the words to him, but here we are. We hear all of these great things about GPP, shameless self-promotion. And I'm down here finally thinking to myself, all right, this must be the last place in town. If these guys can't do it according to everybody, nobody can. So although I'm somewhat positive that you can't help me at all, I'm here and I'm going to give it my best. And I was like, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Like they were popping up all over. Right. And I'm like, maybe she's just being humble. Right? Maybe she's being humble. Maybe she's just about to really achieve something and she wants to be the understated type. So I back off. I'm like, yeah, you can do this. This is easy. We were doing this workout that day. It's called Round the Horn. Back then it was called SSBT. Doesn't matter. But now it's called Around the Horn. And Round the Horn, you sprint through obstacles. We used to put these 45-pound plates on the floor and we'd put them about 6 feet apart. And you would take a little run at them and sprint 10 meters over these obstacles. You had to lift your knees because if you caught your foot on one of those 45-pound 4-inch plates, you were going to belly flop the floor and bounce across it. And those wrecks are spectacular and scary. Now, let me set the stage for you. This young lady was probably in her mid-50s and probably by her, what she said, about 80 pounds overweight. You can immediately subtract 20 pounds for that because everybody wants to be at a weight that they have no business being at. So let's call her 60 pounds overweight. However, she had not moved probably in the past 25 years in any real comprehensive way outside of walking. SSBT, we go sprinting through the obstacles. We run around the side. We take a run. We sprint through the obstacles. We run around the side. We do that 4 times. Then we do some bicep curls, overhead presses, and triceps. And then we sprint, bicep curls, triceps, overheads. And we just keep doing that, I think, for 25 or 35 minutes.
And she hadn't moved in any significant way for years.
And I'm telling her, don't. This is a really terrible idea. The last thing you want to do at this point is do what everybody else is doing and what I'm suggesting. So your job is to jog along the side in this little path of the obstacles, and then only do that twice, not 4 times. And then do bicep curls, half of the bicep curls with half of the weight for half of the time. That was our suggestion to her, as is our suggestion to most people. Sorry, I'm doing all the talking here, but I have
No,
to
no,
tell
it
the
makes
rest of
sense,
the
right?
story.
Because you don't want her to fail from the beginning and beat herself up for it. So give her something she can be successful at. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we communicate clearly. I'm a pretty good communicator, and at least by this time, I had become a pretty good communicator after watching several people belly flop across the floor. One guy hit the chalk bin on his way into his nosedive after he tripped on the last plate. He hit the chalk bin, and that was spectacular. Anyway, this lady, I'm over by the clock. I got my finger up on the clock. I'm like, all right, everybody. There's about 25 people in the room. 3, 2, 1, beep, and everybody takes off. And they're kind of going one at a time. And she kind of stays toward the back. She gets ready. She starts rolling up. And I'm a little leery with her. She's gearing up. Like she's ready. And I'm like, I don't love that. And I'll be damned. I'll be good and damned if at her time to sprint, she didn't shoot out of there like somebody had lit her on fire,
Oh
right?
no.
High knees, elbows pumping, fast as she could go. She overtakes another lady on her way through the obstacles, not along the side as she was instructed, right?
She's on a
Hits the
mission.
brakes, slows down. At the end of this, I'm like, what in the hell are you doing? That's a, oh, and I'm like, you know how like when you got to get over to somewhere, but somehow your body starts going backwards first.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
you run. You know what I'm talking about? That I
Yeah.
was so beside myself. I totally Scooby-Dooed it there for a minute before I got to her, right? I didn't get to her in time. I kind of chased toward her. I wasn't going to make a big spectacle of this thing. So I missed her by the time she got around the other thing. Same thing. She takes a run at it, full speed. I'm talking NFL kind of thing. Bah, 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 bah.
Oh
I
no.
run across the gym and I grab her by the arms and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? This is crazy. She's like, I'm just trying, man. I'm like, man, you really are trying. And I'm like, please run along the side. This isn't safe. Please, trust your trainer. I've been doing this a long time. Please
Okay.
trust your trainer. Okay, that's a good idea. So I had just given her permission to slow down, and I think sometimes there's some weight on that, and people will do it after you tell them to. But
Right.
she gets down around the corner, backs up, and this time, as if shot out of a cannon, she's faster than the first 2 times. And
Wow. Doing it again.
sure enough, she comes up hobbling at the end of the third one, like, oh, hammy, I got a hammy issue. And I was like, what'd you think was going to happen? Of course you're hurt now, right? She leaves, kind of limping. She's going to get some ice and take care of it. And I never, ever, ever see her again.
Hmm.
And I'm so disappointed.
She thought you'd failed her.
I did. But somewhere along the way, it occurred to me I had heard something about self-sabotage. And somewhere along the way, it occurred to me maybe that's what was going on here. All my red flags were talking to me, and they were telling me when we first talked to each other that she maybe was trying to prove somebody right or wrong. It felt like she was trying to prove her husband right, that or herself right, that this really isn't something she can do. She always gets hurt and never accomplishes her physical goal. And her husband wrong in that when he was maybe telling her you can do this, which was one of my other red flags.
Right.
What's the mentality there? Why do people self-sabotage? What's that about? Do they
Yeah,
know it?
I can think of 100 stories of my own. They wouldn't be much different from yours, actually, Neil, to be honest with you. Um, who, there's so many different reasons, right? There's so many different reasons. You can go back to daddy issues, right? You can talk about not feeling adequate enough, and you're so used to failure that you don't know what success would feel like, and so failure feels more comfortable than success, right? There's so many different ones out there. There's so many different ones out there. Um, I think the bigger question, instead of why do we self-sabotage, is figuring out how. Everyone does it. Everyone does it. Um, you think about any hobby that you wanted to pick up, or any job promotion you wanted to get to, and sometimes you go out and you'll, I don't know, let's say that you have a hobby to learn the guitar, right? You'll go out and buy a guitar, and you never pick it up. Well, you're self-sabotaging, right? Because I'm not a musical expert, Neil, but I imagine if you're gonna learn the guitar, you got to actually like pick it up, you
Feels
know?
to me like you ought to put your fingers on it, you know?
Right? Yeah, you'd think so. And I'm not an expert, but I can imagine that's the case. And I think a lot of other people would agree with me on that. So who
Unless they're
doesn't
selling
know,
something.
who doesn't know you're self-sabotaging there? I want to learn the guitar, but I'm not going to pick it up. Okay, I can tell you with pretty good. So who doesn't know that, right? Who doesn't know that? So the first step is figuring out how you self-sabotage, I would think. What are the ways that I take in this case, right, you might find yourself in a habit of, I take the first step and that's it. I don't go any steps other than that. In the case that the woman, the example that you gave, um, she jumps into things way too hard, way too fast, gets an injury, beats herself up about it. Man, I'm never good enough at these things. I can't keep up with all these beautiful people at the gym, right? And that's how she beats herself up. That's the bigger question that I think is going to be more helpful, is how do you self-sabotage? Because everyone does it.
Ooh, I
Um,
never thought of that. You're right. We all do it, don't we? I'm sitting here picking through little places in my mind where I've probably done it every day. You got up a little later. Um, I picked before you and I got on this phone call. I picked a different phone call. That was a little sabotaging. So you're right. You're right. How do we? How do
yeah.
you recognize you're doing it?
And that's the tricky part, right? Is recognizing that you do it. What I see in my clinic, okay, is people who usually self-sabotage don't have the right intentions under what it is they're really trying to fix. So here's an example. Here's a story for you, okay? So a couple comes in, and this is not just one couple. This is hundreds of couples, but this is just an example of one couple. So a couple comes in, they've already contacted a lawyer, they've already filed the paperwork for divorce, that is, and they're coming in to give counseling one last chance, right? And so, okay, my first question is, well, what's going to make this successful? What do you guys want to get out of counseling? How will you know when this helps? And they can't even give me an answer on that. The first thing they start doing is complaining about, well, he's doing this and he's doing that, and she's doing this and she won't stop doing that, right? They just go into complaints about each other. And I take a step back and I say, okay, but the question was, what do you want to get out of counseling, right? How is this going to be successful? Usually that's enough to kind of catch them and say, for them to catch themselves and look at themselves and say, okay, yeah, I'm here to complain. But they're not here to actually work on their marriage, which is funny because here they picked up the phone, they made a phone call, they probably made half a dozen phone calls. They're coming to see me. I've got their billing information, and they're not here actually to work on their marriage. They're here to complain. They just want to complain about their spouse that well, he's such a blankety blank. He's doing this, and well, let me tell you about her. She's doing that. Um, And so I think the motivations are wrong. That's what I think when people are self-sabotaging. The motivations are wrong. In the case of the guitar example, right? Like, why do they want to pick up the guitar? It's obviously not a strong enough reason for them to follow through with it. So that's what I would think. How does that fit with what you're seeing in your gym, though? Like, do you see folks coming in with the wrong motivations, and how does that usually turn out?
It's interesting to me because I know this. I know that I'm not qualified to make that judgment. I can tell you that it doesn't look to me like they do come in. Here's another example. I have this friend, a very dear friend, who overexercises chronically, right? We sat her down one time and we're like, listen, you got this injury, you got this injury, you got this injury, and you got this injury. You're always sick. You don't look like you feel right, right? Plus, you're gaining weight in certain ways. I didn't tell her that. She told me that.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is classic. You know, you are so very, very fit, but it's gotten to this point where you're not able to do any of it, right? But now, because you're not able to do this, this, and this, and this, what you're doing is you're adding this and this and this for what looks to me like punishment.
Okay.
I can't decide what it is, and I don't know what your motivation is, but I can tell you is that logically, you and I both know this isn't serving you. You got to stop. You got to stop. And she was like, yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you. The very next day, buddy, the very next day, full on, hour and a half, 2 hours. My workouts are 20-ish minutes long, sometimes as many as 40, but that's a very long one, and they're pretty rare. And there she was, beating the bejeebers out of herself. Wow. Again and again and again. She never backed off, never once. And so we set her down again. I'm like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I know. Anyhow. I was like, not anyhow. You're killing yourself. Like, this is terrible, right? She's limping everywhere. She's telling you how she's not sleeping well. Like, yeah, I don't know what was going on. I can tell you that looked to me like self-sabotage.
Right.
Because talking about it, she gets it.
I was going to say, even when you tried talking to her about it, she tried, avoiding it next? Is that what happened?
I don't think so. She would. So, yeah, she would. She'd never look you in the eyes. It got to the point where it became somewhat tense, I thought. Maybe she didn't. But it got to this point where she'd kind of come in and park herself farther away and not make as much contact with me and some of her friends. And people were looking at each other going, what is going on over there? That's way over her head. That's way too much exercise. I couldn't figure out what the deal was. I could tell her straight to her face, and she was like, yeah, oh yeah. And I felt like she meant it. But the very next day, she's right back at it exactly again. I was always like, A, I don't know what I could say to her, and B, I don't know what anybody could say to her. What can she say to herself, and what would her therapist say to her?
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm getting alarm bells all over in my head over here. Does she have a eating disorder maybe, where she's got to burn so many calories, or anyway, there's all kinds of things going on in my mind. But let me ask you this though, okay? Just shooting from the hip here. So out in TV land, you're gonna love this because this is unfiltered. I think people self-sabotage because they don't really want what they're trying to get. Does that make sense?
No.
You told me this actually, not in this specific.
Yeah, I'm not that
context,
smart.
so
There's no way I said that to you.
No, the next thing I'm going to say, you told me this. If you really wanted to do something, wild horses couldn't keep you from doing it. If you really wanted it, wild horses couldn't stop you. So if you're self-sabotaging and you see yourself doing it over and over again, and you still are doing it, maybe you really don't want that thing that you keep self-sabotaging yourself about.
Dude, you better watch out. They'll eat you alive for saying that. I've had it.
Can I tell you?
You better watch out because they're not. they're not just going to hear that. Here's what they're going to hear.
All
This is
right.
what they're going to say to you. Oh, I love this. You went there. I didn't. Yeah. They're going to say, no, I really do want to lose weight, Aaron. You don't understand. Shame on you.
Then why
Shame
aren't
on
you?
you for saying that to me, because I obviously want to lose weight. I'm not healthy. I can't keep up with my kids. I can't keep up with my grandkids. All of this is affecting me in very, very serious ways. And how dare you say that to me? I've tried everything.
But you're not. So I have to do that with clients. Okay, I have to do it with clients pretty often. Okay, when clients like the one I was telling you about come in to see me and they're just complaining about their partner, right? Sometimes I just have to have a talk with them and say, hey, look, guys, this is our 5th, 6th appointment, 9th, 10th, whatever, right? I'm a good enough counselor. I'll usually do it at the 4th or 5th appointment before they get too far into it. And I'll just sit them down. I'll say, hey, look, guys, what are you getting out of counseling? How is this helping you? And if I'm having this conversation with you, it's probably because you're not really getting much out of counseling. And so we've either got to course correct here, or we've got to course correct here. Because if you keep coming into counseling and you're not getting anything out of it, don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. I'm not going to waste any of your money either. I'm not like that. So I sit them down and I say, look, what are you guys getting out of it? And sometimes I get surprised, actually. Sometimes they'll tell me, well, it makes me feel better to let my partner know how much they've hurt me. Oh, okay. I'm sure that's not helping your partner, but it's helping you, right? So what nugget can I take from that to move them forward, right? It helps that you can tell your partner how much they hurt you. But sometimes it just gets to the point, and I got maybe a little sidetracked there. The point I was trying to make was sometimes they realize, look, I'm really not here for couples counseling. I'm just here to give my partner a piece of my mind and tell them how much they've hurt me, tell them what a jerk they are, something like that. And I say, well, okay, that's fine. And it's good, that needed to come out. So now this partner over here can say, yeah, I'm not in counseling for that. I'm not going to pay you $150 to get beat up by my spouse. But we get down to the bottom of it, right? We get down to the bottom of it. These couples are self-sabotaging. They're not really coming in to help their relationship, to actually fix it. They're just here to unload on the other one. But we get to the bottom of it. We get to the bottom of it and find out what is your real motivation. I wonder how a conversation like that would have went if you could have seen that woman again and said, hey, good grief, why are you here again? Hey, are we going to do this again yet, the same as we did last time?
I think you'd need more skill than I have to have that conversation. I really mean it. Like, I think you have to have some training and some sort of licensure to have that conversation in any meaningful way. Because it does occur to me, I think, and tell me where I'm wrong on this, but it occurs to me that at some point you're dealing with issues that aren't completely related to the exercise or to the programming, which are the limits of my expertise. Right. I know a lot about that stuff. I really do. I've written program. I have a knack for it anyway, but I've done it for a long time too. And so at some point I can tell you what's helping you and what's not helping you. At the point where I become lost, and I think most of us are, is in this human behavioral thing. I think
Right.
Adjusting your own behavior. And I do find that I'm easily manipulated, because I had this other client one time, little teeny tiny thing, mother of 4, and she was that big around, sadly that big around. And this cute little thing had come in and work out with me hard. This is back in my personal training days. Then she'd go take a class. She would time it so there'd be a class directly after, and that lasted for an hour. And then she would hop on and hop on the Stairmaster, one of those rotating stair machines, not the up-down machine, but the rotating stairs.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a Stairmaster. And she'd hop on that Stairmaster and proceed to put a whooping on herself that was ungodly, that most stubborn mules couldn't have handled. It would have killed a mule. And she'd do that every day. And she got down to the point where it looked like she was going to blow away in the wind. And I would plead with her, no more, no more, no more. And the thing that I knew was that wasn't good for her. What I didn't know was A, why she was doing it, or B, what would resonate with her. So it would go both ways. I see people that are getting, despite the fact that they're saying they wish that and wish for that and only that. And I understand the limits of my capacity, because this cute little thing would convince me that this was how much logically it didn't make sense to me. I'd be nodding my head. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, for sure. And somehow in that moment, I had the feeling I had done wrong. And I got guilty feeling about that. And I had a pit in my stomach as I would walk away. That would happen every time I talked to her.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying, would I dare go talk to her again? If it was a friend, I might keep pleading, but I can tell you these things are like kicking a dead horse sometimes. I really struggle with them. I don't have your kind of knowledge and training. So let me turn that around on you. Where would I go? What would I say that would have any impact, and what are my limits?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think that's flipping awesome that you see that, though, because boy, I get a lot of people who come in who've been to see like trainers, who've been to see relationship coaches or personal coaches, and they do dig into some of that, and it's just mind-boggling if you don't have the training.
Well, listen, the only way I know that, in terms of full disclosure, the only way I know that is because I did do it wrong for a very long time. One-on-one, hours a day, several times a week with the same person over grants a familiarity that has a person step somewhere out of the professional realm and start going to this other realm. And I have seen the effects of the things I've said have negative impact on other people's lives. I was lucky that around year 10, this is year 26 for me, but I was lucky around year 10, I put a stop to that. I don't get involved in this as much. If I can, sometimes I get caught. So what are my limits? What do I say? How do I help if I can?
And maybe this is good advice, I think, for anybody out there listening too, because everyone has that friend they can think of that has that drinking problem maybe, or everyone has that friend out there who keeps trying to start a business doing X and it's just not working for them, right? At what point do you come up to them and say, hey, look, yeah, at what point? I don't think there's anything wrong in just going up and saying, hey, how is this working for you? No, really, like, how's this working for you? And just have a heart to heart. I don't think you need to have any licensure for that, just to hear it up front and just say, hey, really, how's this working for you?
Just Dr. Phil. Isn't that like Dr. Phil's thing? 1, what's the problem? 2, what are you doing about it? 3, how's that going for you?
Maybe without the sarcasm. Dr. Phil is a little bit more sarcastic about it. And then too,
I think that's what he does. Yeah, without some of the sarcasm.
Well, and then he'll throw in some.
Did I rub you a little wrong with the Dr. Phil thing?
No, man, he is the joke in my field. So
I thought so.
We can joke about him all you want, that guy. And then he'll throw in some kind of fun. Well, if you put some lipstick on a donkey, it's not going to look good in a skirt or something, right?
Yeah, if you say it with enough of a twang, you get a pass.
Yep. And it can make no sense. What does a skirt and lipstick on a donkey? But
that's
Oprah
what I do.
Endorses him.
That's what I do. You just caught my secret. I just throw a little Tremont on there and say anything I want, and people getting on their heads. I could have made $1 million.
You just needed to know Oprah. Oh, yeah.
Would have helped. Okay, well, listen. Self-sabotage is a thing. Maybe the best thing to do is talk to him just once. Like, you can't keep going, right? Yeah. Does it ever make them worse if you keep going and keep going and keep talking?
No, if you let them know that you're being sincere, right? Like Dr. Phil, he'll throw that out sarcastically and well, look at you, you big idiot. How's that working for you with your lipstick? Like that's what Dr. Phil means. If you're being sincere with them and just saying, hey, look, how's this working? You know, can we really look through this and see um, you're getting something out of it, or else you wouldn't be doing it, right? You're getting something out of it, or else you wouldn't be doing it. But is it the thing that you want? Um, like the couple that came in that were here just to complain about their spouse, right? They were getting something out of it. They absolutely were. But it wasn't what they were wanting to get. Well, we were able to do some work with them. I was able to do some work with them and say, okay, you want to tell your partner how much you're hurt. Great, right? Because in a functional relationship, you should be able to say that to your partner, but not in a way that hurts them, right? Because now all you're doing is just flipping the coin over on their side and doing the same thing that they're doing to you, and tit for tat doesn't work. So, okay, let's talk about that hurt then, right? Let's pretend for just a second we're not here to make this relationship work anymore. And we just want to have that hurt heard. Let's go there. That seems to be what you're wanting to do, at least for now. But here's the rules. You can't be a jerk about it. You can't just unload and tell your partner what a piece of trash they are, right? So let's talk about that hurt. And so they did. And the other partner was very gracious and heard it and said, wow, I can see that. That wasn't my intention. I didn't mean to do those things to hurt you. I did do those things nonetheless. And I didn't know they had that effect on you. I'm sorry. Wow. Did that have some healing, right? And then we were able to move on to the next level, which is now we're in couples counseling. We're now trying to make the relationship work. And so even though they started off in this self-sabotaging place of just wanting to tell their partner, give them a piece of their mind, we were able to do that in a way that was helpful and make that the content. Hey, this is why you're actually coming in. So let's get into it, right? That's what you want. And so that's the question that I would suggest everyone out there in TV land ask themselves is, when you're picking up the guitar, when you're trying a new hobby, when you're looking for a promotion, what is it that you want out of that? And be serious with yourself, be real with yourself. That's going to, and if you keep failing at it, that's the conversation to have with yourself too, is, okay, there's something I want out of this that I keep on trying, and that's great. Is it what I really want to get out of it? Because again, if you want to learn the guitar and you're not actually picking up the guitar, okay, there's something going on there that needs to be figured out. Yeah, that's what I would say is have that honest conversation with them, have that honest conversation with yourself. Am I really getting out of this what I want to be getting out of this?
And if not, maybe what's my personal payoff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got the distinct feeling in all three of the cases that I shared with you today that the thing that they were getting out of that, like I felt like the very little lady, I felt like I don't know, I'm not qualified to say this stuff, but it just for me felt like she was getting punishment. I felt like the health wasn't what she was striving for as much as she was hurting herself. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Taking a punishment for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was another lady in that I felt like the lady that was sprinting through the things. I had a feeling that she would herself, her payoff was, look, everybody, I'm trying. Felt like that was a payoff that she was paying more attention to than actually getting healthy. I felt like that had more importance to her in that moment anyway,
Mm-hmm.
than the stuff she told me earlier about getting healthy,
right.
do some stuff. I don't know what the middle lady was. I've never been able to figure that out. I could tell you that whatever that was that they were after, man, they were getting it in spades.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Well, and so by them being able to discover that, right? So for example, the first example that you gave of the woman that just went all out, um, what was she getting? Hey, you're here for a reason. Let's pretend it's not for health. Okay. What do you want to get out of this? And then maybe then she can tell you, well, I want my husband to see that I'm trying, that I really am trying. Okay, great. What does that look like for you to be trying? Do you have to be going crazy, hurting yourself? Does that what it, is that what it means to be trying? Or what about I don't know, doing some Pilates stretches? Like, is that what it means to be trying? Like let's get down to that. If you just want to send a message that you're trying, what does that look like that you're trying? And maybe we can get to that there. But that sounds like something I'd do in a therapy room. Um,
Yeah, I'm not qualified to do that. I can tell. I think that we've explored some fun stuff here, Aaron. I love talking. I hope you'll come back and talk to us a little bit about this. I think that sometimes just milling about, I guess the last question I have is, we've acknowledged there is such thing as self-sabotage. Sometimes the best thing to do is take stock. I think I've heard you clearly on that. We've illustrated some points that seem to be self-sabotage. If I can sit down after watching this interview, this conversation, and realize that I have some self-sabotaging behavior, step to getting ahead of it. What should I do now?
I would just
Brother, you gone?
repeat. Yeah, no, I just repeat what I'm going to just repeat what we said. What are you trying to get out of it? What do you try? If you really wanted to do it, wild horses couldn't stop you. So if you're finding times that you're self-sabotaging, that thing that you want just always seems to be elusive and always seems to escape you, what do you really want from that? What do you want from that? There's something else there that you want from it that maybe you can find in some other aspect or some other piece, and be just as satisfied. So that's what I would say is just what is it that you really want out of that?
Love it. Thank you. I think that that's stuff I can definitely take bites of today and nourish myself with, as corny and cheesy as that sounds. Next time I want to pick your brain about something. I heard that sometimes we gain weight as a response to things like childhood trauma, and it's an insulatory response. Don't respond to this, but would you mind coming back and talking to us about that next time and sharing some thoughts on reasons why maybe we become unhealthy in the first place that aren't directly related to our gluttony and selfishness?
Oh, I can think of 100. That'll be a good one.
Awesome. Cool. Appreciate you. Thanks for all you do, brother.
Thanks, Neil. Take
All right.
care.
Talk to you later.